The sort of videos I work on now are long form YouTube videos. That's what I edit. I don't do music videos, don't do wedding shoots, don't do all these random things. YouTube is where it's at. And I've got my prices now to the point where I charge between $1,000 and $2,000 per video for a long form video. So between 10 to 20, 30 minutes. But my first 10K month was in December 2022, so about 2 years ago. And I actually only charged $200. Now, a lot of people think you need to charge like crazy to increase your income. But if I could make 10K a month while at $200 per video, clearly there was something else there. And it sounds pretty obvious, well, just edit more videos. But how do you know when you should raise prices? And how do you know when it's time to actually just do more videos? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video, where I'm going to be giving you the 3-step process of figuring out exactly what you need to do in your situation to increase your income as reliably and risk-free as possible. And starting with the first step, we need to first define what your actual goal is. I want you to think about wherever your prices are right now and think about the number which you want it to be at. Right now, you probably have in your mind this sort of range where you would be happy if you were charging that amount. Whatever that number is, lock in your mind, what price would you want to get to? Let's say in a year from now, where would you want to be charging per video? Now, lock that number in. I want you to realize that number is fucking irrelevant. Because I want to ask you, was your goal through all of this, through this whole editing and learning about the business side of editing as well, was your goal to have this number where you can just stroke your ego by saying, oh, I charge this much? Or was your goal to make money from editing? Because in a weird way, they're actually two separate things. Let me explain. Let's say you raised your price to whatever you want. Let's say you went to $1,000 per video. To most people, that seems insane. If you got your prices to $1,000 per video, would that make you happy? Most people would say yes, but here's the thing. If that video takes you, let's take it to its logical extreme, an entire year, $1,000 over an entire year. Sure, you can say, I charge $1,000 per video, but it doesn't really mean anything because your income is still basically nothing. In a weird way, you would make more money doing cheaper videos, but just doing more of them. And the reason I give that example is just to prove a point that you might think that you want to raise your prices, but at the core of it, you want to make more money. And it's very important we differentiate these two goals. It's important to know if your goal is to make money, we have a very different strategy to if you just want to charge more per video. So I'm going to assume by you continuing to watch this video, you would rather focus on making more money rather than just having a number that you want to be as high as possible for the sake of having a number to talk about. So let's move on to step 2, which is understanding the levers which actually influence how much money we're making, which change our income. So fundamentally, there's only 2 things that can change how much money you make. And every single thing, if you are not focusing on these things, it will not make you more money. You either charge more or you do more videos. Most people understand to charge more. They want to go from whatever it's charging now to doubling, quadrupling, eventually like imagining 10xing their prices by next year. But the thing is, if you just did more videos, you would actually have the exact same progress towards your goal. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're charging right now $100 per video and you want to double your income. You could raise your prices to $200 per video. That would actually double your income. Let's say you're doing 1 video per week, you're making $400 a month. If you charge $200, you're now making $800 per month. That sounds amazing, but here's the thing. You could actually do the exact same thing. We could get to the same goal of making, let's say, $800 a month in that case. You could do that by just doing 1 more video per week. And here's why that's interesting. And it's really important to understand this before we actually go into step 3. Step 3 is where we decide which one should we focus on. Which one would both be easiest to implement and also with the least risk possible, meaning the least likelihood chance of our income dropping by the decision that we make. Because if there's anything worse than being stuck at an income or not being able to go up, the worst feeling than that is actually actively going down. And if you make the bad decision, you'll have good months, better months, and then suddenly you'll drop if you make a bad decision. This is how you prevent that bad decision from happening. I've spoken and coached hundreds of editors, and for honestly most of them, I've actually found increasing prices is a potential solution for them making more money, but it is the riskier one. Here's why. Let's say that you have a certain client right now who's paying you whatever amount. You raising the price with him, there's the potential upside that he says yes, and let's say you doubled your prices, you've now doubled your income. Nobody talks about the downside, because let's say that he says no. You've now either lost all your income because he's going to say no and leave, or you're going to stay with the same price, and now there's this sort of awkward vibe between you two, and then in a month from now you get dropped and you have no idea why, but it was because that awkward situation sort of played out. But on the other hand, let's say we didn't raise the price. Let's say we just took on another client, meaning we've basically taken on more videos. If we were doing 1 video per week with this guy, now we're doing 2 videos per week with both of these guys. Your potential upside is that you're now doing double the videos, meaning your income would double, so it's the exact same upside as you raising your price. But here's the difference. You've basically got no risk because you can't lose lose money by taking on a client. The potential downside is pretty much nothing. Okay, you might have about 3 days where you're working more than usual, but you'll get used to it. And here's the interesting part. People say that they don't want to take on more videos or more clients because they're scared they're not going to be able to keep up with the workload. But I want to ask you this. Think about when you first started editing. Not when you just like sort of figured it out on the first time, but when you actually started taking it more seriously. You thought you were genuinely productive. But you might look at that version of yourself, whether it be from a few months ago or 6 months ago, a year ago, and you look at him and you're like, bro, you didn't even know what work was. What do you mean you were near burning out or you were trying so hard? Bro, if you saw how hard I'm working today, you wouldn't even call what you're doing work. So you know that your work capacity has increased. Here's the funny thing. You're going to look back at the version of you now in 6 months from now, and you're going to be like, bro, you work like a bitch. Here's the thing. The way you increase your work capacity is by taking on more work, not increasing your work capacity first and then taking on more projects. You basically have to just throw yourself into the deep end. Like literally the worst case scenario, meaning everything goes wrong when you take on a new client and do more videos, is you've doubled your income. This is the worst case scenario. You have to work a little bit harder and your work capacity will increase, meaning you're better at working in the future. Boo-hoo. So you notice how doubling your price for a certain client and just taking on more videos both have the same potential upside, but one of them just has a huge potential downside. Is this me telling you that you should never raise your prices? No, because if I was taking that advice, I'd still be at $5 per video, which I'm clearly not. The time you want to raise your prices, this very specific moment when you are already overbooked. You should be working at above your capacity, maybe by 10-20% of what you can literally handle. That is a good time to raise your prices. Most people wait to raise their prices until they're nearing their work capacity. They're like, oh, I could take on 1 more video or 2 more videos per week, but I want to raise my prices first. It's like, that's when you fall into this dodgy territory of if someone says no, your income is dropping. If you purposely take on 1 more client, let's say right now you're physically able to take on 1 more video. I am telling you, take on 1 more video and then try to take on another 1 more like after that. The reason being, you will feel stressed and you will feel on the brink of burnout. Good. That is your indicator that you are going to raise price. You're working with 2, 3, 4 guys. What you do is you look at the cheapest guy and you don't drop him. You never drop client. Instead, what you do is you raise your price hoping that they say no. Because here's what happens when you use this overbook method where you take on more clients than you can handle. You now have leverage. You have power. You have choice. Because when you're normally raising prices, how does it feel? It's scary, right? It's like, what if this guy says no, my income's going to go with it? When you've overbooked yourself and now you're raising price to pretty much get rid of the guy, best case scenario, the guy says yes. You've charged a crazy amount where you've never even thought it was possible. Guy says yes, you just got your highest paying client. Worst case scenario, he says no. He was low paying anyways and you have other clients and now you have more time to deal with those. No matter what, you win in this situation, but you cannot get into this golden opportunity, this almost perfect situation if you don't allow yourself to take on more projects than you can handle. Because the reality for most editors is honestly so sad. They'll get maybe 1 or 2 clients quite luckily. They'll go into some random Discord or Reddit thread or do some random crap to get a client and now they're almost like holding on for dear life just to keep this guy. And now when they want to ask him for a raise, they'll raise it by like 10 or 20 bucks per video. But here's the thing, every time you raise a price for a certain client, it is likely for them to say no. It's just a part of the game. If I told you that, yo, this apple is $5, you wanted to buy it, and I said, well, it's actually $7, you're in your right to say, well, I don't actually want it. Completely normal. So if we are going to raise the price, you might as well do it by a decent amount to the point where it's worth it. Because if I went from $100 to $110, $10 isn't going to change my life. If I felt underpaid at $100, I'm still going to feel underpaid at $110. So I've risked the no. In the small case scenario that he said yes, I still feel underpaid. If I'm going to risk a no, if I'm going to drop someone by raising my prices, I'm going from like 100 to 150 or 100 to 200, 100 to 250, like basically adding like $100, $200. I've even had times where I helped a guy, his name's Aron. We raised his prices from $1,300 per video, so already quite high, but for the amount of work he was doing, he was spending like I think 5 to 7 days on the video. We wanted him to raise his prices. He wanted to raise his prices by a few $100s, so from 1,300 to around like 1.5k. I told him, bro, you're risking the relationship anyways. If he's gonna say no, he's gonna say no anyways. You might as well fucking like go raw in this bitch and be like, fuck it, $2,000. I told him, bro, send $2,000. Ask him for $2,000. And if he says no, he was gonna say no at 1,500 anyways. If he says yes, at least it's worth the risk. Here's the funny thing, the client said yes, and now Artem had a $2,000 $1,000 per video client. So that's the process I use to basically figure out how to increase my income. You either need to get more videos done or you need to raise your price. But you can only raise your price comfortably if you are taking on more videos than you can handle. So hope you found this useful. If you did like it, you can like, subscribe, do all the YouTube shit. I don't know. You're an editor. You know how this stuff works. It'll basically just recommend stuff to you if YouTube thinks you like it. So yeah, take care. Peace.